Welcome, everybody. Okay, so here we go. Welcome, everybody. As I was mentioning earlier, my name is Marcy Edelstein Schaefer, and this is Sarah Bingaman, and the two of us are the co-leads for Indivisible Rural Illinois group. And starting next month, Jessica Motzinger will also be joining us as another co-lead. Thank you for coming to, this is the Indivisible Illinois statewide meeting. And tonight's meeting is being hosted by the Indivisible Rural Illinois subgroup of Indivisible Illinois. The rural group was founded by Sarah Bingaman after the 2020 election, and it was formed to help give a voice to the progressive activists in downstate Illinois and to help get more progressive candidates elected anywhere in Illinois. Tonight's panel will reflect the difficulties that many areas in downstate Illinois have of attracting Democratic candidates. What's the problem? Well, with a few exceptions, like my own county of Champaign, most of the downstate is bright red, which means that Democrats running downstate may feel they are basically sacrificial lambs. And in some areas, candidates are even being threatened because these days, Democrats are usually much more progressive than Republicans. It is not only downstate Illinois where this is an issue. Many states, including others that are currently blue, have the same issues. We ignore the problem to our own detriment, not only locally, but statewide and nationally as well. But guess what? When we mobilize and work together, we all have an impact. So cases in point, the US House of Representatives just barely holds a Democratic majority, right? Well, some of those seats were flipped from red to blue in conservative parts of California, a blue state. Where would the House be if those traditionally Republican seats in that blue state of California had not gone to Democrats? Hey, I live in Champaign County. The county may be blue overall now, but prior to the 2018 election, there was only one countywide office held by a Democrat. Then in 2018 and 2020, all of the countywide offices except one flipped to Democrats. How did that happen? Many of us banded together and worked our tuchuses off. That's how it happened. So please listen to these Democratic county chairs. If we can't find Democrats willing to run downstate and bring the message of why progressive programs help people more than falling for the Republican playbook of stoking fear and resentment, then downstate voters will never have a chance to hear our message. All they'll know are Republican lies. It's a long game, but it's the only way to chip away information downstate. And remember, Illinois may be blue now, but it is always only one election away from becoming a Republican state. Up in Chicago, you may not realize that we lost some downstate Democratic state house seats in 2020, but we did. If we lose even more than this year, then all the inroads made on from our legislature and governor will have been for naught if we go red instead of blue. If Illinoisans do not help other Illinoisans, nobody else will. Same goes for like New York and California, et cetera. These blue states can flip at any time. It only takes one election. And believe me, even inside Champaign-Urbana, I see way more Darren Bailey signs and Pritzker Sucks signs than I see signs for Democrats. Now, we now have a few announcements first, and then Sarah Bingaman, who will be moderating the panel, will begin. Please keep yourselves on mute unless you are called on to ask a question. And please put your questions in the chat. We usually call on you in order. Thank you. So, okay, I think what we'll do is when we'll have announcements, and I think we're going to start with the Truth Brigade. I think Etta, you had announcements.
Yes, I do. I'm Etta Worthington. I'm one of 3 co-leads of Truth Brigade Illinois. And we're all about fighting disinformation. Next week, we're having our once every 6-week big meeting at 7:30 p.m. on Wednesday. And I think it's going to be something that would be interest of most of you. We'll be discussing how to share truth with conservative people of faith. Our special speaker will be Knapp Nasworth of American Values Coalition. And by the way, this might be an organization you've never heard of. And I'll actually, in case anybody's interested and wants to check it out ahead of time, I'll put that in the chat right now. I discovered him last fall, and I'm kind of excited about this meeting because I do have to confess I'm urban and I tend to live in a bubble, and that bubble doesn't tend to include a lot of conservative people and probably not too many people who are actively in the faith community. And I think there's opportunity for us to listen to and talk to people in the faith community who may have been deluded by Trump, but may need to and be willing to start to think differently. Now, I don't exactly know what's going to happen next week because I've only seen Nap once and we've had a little bit of a discussion, but I do know he's going to be open to questions. And I'm going to be coming with my questions about how to do a better job of connecting to people who are in the faith community. I'm kind of happy too that Sarah and Marcy have agreed to be co-sponsors, the rural group, your rural group, to be co-sponsors of this, because I think maybe in rural areas it's harder to do what I do, which is sometimes ignore the faith community. So I hope you guys will come because I think we're going to learn a lot. So thanks for letting me talk about it.
Great,
See you next week.
wonderful. Thank you. And I think Marcy had an announcement or two.
Yeah, I have a few announcements, but first, Lenny, do you have any announcements of any kind?
Hi, everyone. It's Lenny. I'm a co-coordinator with Indivisible Illinois. I just wanted to thank you all for being here, especially Marcy and Sarah, who've been leading this group for quite some time now. I wanted to just drop one link into the chat, and it's a way for you to keep in touch with Indivisible Illinois Weekly. It's our Connecting for Action newsletter. And you can see it's a bit.ly connecting IL. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
You're
you,
up,
Lenny.
So, and also, before I make announcements, is anyone from the Indivisible Illinois Social Justice Alliance here? And if they are, do you want to make an announcement on anything? Okay, I guess that's a no. Okay, I have 3 announcements. One actually is not Indivisible. I was contacted by the Comptroller Mendoza's campaign manager that there is going to be a meet and greet for Comptroller Mendoza this Friday in Carbondale. Is there anybody here that lives near or in Carbondale that would be interested in going to a meet and greet with Susanna Mendoza, our Comptroller? So that's going to, just in case there is, it's going to be this Friday from 5 to 7 at Polly Ice Pizza in Carbondale. And so, yeah, you could meet her in person and all that stuff. So I just wanted to let you know that. The other 2 announcements I made are both Indivisible announcements. One is for the Indivisible Rural Illinois group. This is the regular Indivisible Illinois weekly meeting that the rural group is leading tonight, but we have our own also rural meetings once a month and it's the first Thursday of every month from 7:30 to 9. And the next one that we are going to be having will be July 7th, and it's going to be very interesting. It's zeroing in on the young and vulnerable, how right-wing organizations mobilize high school and college students. And it's, the far-right organizations such as Turning Point USA and Young America's Foundation, they recruit young people on a regular basis. And they're appearing in high schools and college campuses to indoctrinate them. And these students spread the words about right nationalism and other students. There will be a panel that will discuss the concerns that these organizations bring to the communities and what their objectives are. And actually, Sarah is going to be one of the people on the panel. And another person on the panel will be Jim McGrath, who is also part of Indivisible Illinois. And so please come to that. I put a link in the chat for rural meeting 7/7. Okay. So anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to let you know, Indivisible Illinois has a couple phone banks. One phone bank that we've been doing for a long time has been on Saturdays from 4 to 5:30. That one is taking a hiatus, and we're going to be back on July 9th. And we do this in tandem with Indivisible Milwaukee. And we are, when we come back on July 9th, it's going to be a reinvention because it'll be after the primary. We're going to focus on candidates as opposed to focus just on areas, asking voters in certain areas to get their vote by mail ballots and things like that. This time we're going to ask people to vote for candidates. So we're calling it the Indivisible Illinois, Indivisible Milwaukee Rockin' Candidates Phone Bank. And for anybody who is a candidate this year, who would be interested in putting in getting an open VPB link, open virtual phone bank link created, and would like to would like it to be called by volunteers. If you can, let me know. I will put my email in the chat, and you can email that to me. But what we really need is volunteers to work the phones in this phone bank, because if we have, let's say, 10 open VPBs for candidates and we only have 5 volunteers, that's not going to work. So I'm putting a link in for a volunteer sign up, and it's going to be every Saturday from 4 to 5:30. And so if people would volunteer, that would be awesome. Here's the link to that, and I'll put my email in the chat. I will now turn it over to Sarah because she is going to start the meeting.
Hello, everyone. We're so happy you're here with us tonight, and we want to say a special thank you to our county chairs who have been willing to join with us and share their thoughts and serve on this panel tonight. Our intention is for this to be a discussion, for us to hear from the county chairs who have joined us about some of their challenges and some of their ideas and their creativity on getting some people to run for office as Democrats throughout the state of Illinois at any level. And so I think we're going to begin tonight with, and I want to make sure everyone is on mute. So I'm going to, let's see. Okay. I'm going to begin by asking each of the county chairs, and I'll call on you by name and your county, to just introduce yourself so we can see you, and tell us just a little bit about yourselves, 2 minutes. And we'd also like to know where your county is. Illinois is a big state, and we like to think we know the state, but there are a lot of counties and we don't know where they are. So please give us kind of a ballpark idea of where your county is. Unfortunately, tonight, our Lee County Chair, Dave McCarver, something has come up. It came up last night, and he's not going to be able to join us, but he has given me a statement, which I will read in just a few minutes. And then our Bureau County Chair, if he'll give me a high sign when he gets on, he is at a very wonderful event that I think he'll want to tell you about. I think that they are bringing in somebody who will be on the ballot. So that took precedence tonight. So let's begin with Coles County with Mac White. Mac, could you come on and just introduce yourself and tell us where Coles County is, please?
Hi, yeah, I'm Mac White, the Coles County Chair, and Mattoon, Illinois, and Charleston, Illinois are the big towns here, and we're a rural county about an hour south of Champaign.
Wonderful. Great. So everybody's got that bearing, about an hour south of Champaign. Great. Thank you so much, Mac. And now we'd like to hear from Mitchell. He's from Shelby County.
Yes, sorry about that. Had to unmute. Yes, Shelby County. I'm about roughly an hour and 10 minutes from Champaign. To give you guys, since I'm going to take up my 2 minutes here, and I noticed Marcy and Diane, hi guys, on the call. But I worked for Obama from 2011, 2012. After that, I worked for Bernie Sanders, then Hillary, then Bernie Sanders again. Then I became a delegate for Bernie Sanders. After that, I ran as state rep against Brad Halbrook, who I'm sure you all know and love. And then after that, I became a county chair. And since then, I've been working on messaging for Republicans to flip them to quite a great degree. We've had a lot of good, positive feedback on it, but I'll leave that up for some later information if anybody has anything else.
Great, great, great. So the way we're going to run this after introductions is I have some questions and we'll ask each of you to chime in with your thoughts about those questions, your answers to those questions. And then after we've completed that, if we have time, we'll open it up for questions from our non-county chair participants tonight. So Jermaine is here with us. Jermaine, would you like to come on? She is from Vermilion
Yes.
County. Yes.
I am from Vermilion County, and okay, now I forgot what I was supposed to say. Well, Vermilion County is in far east central Illinois. In fact, its county seat, Danville, is really only about 2 miles or so from the Indiana line. And it's a very long, kind of a long county from north to south. You may have heard of Westville. That's another town. They're kind of famous for their Labor Day parade, as is Danville as well. The real AFL-CIO parade is in Danville. Hoopeston has the famous Sweet Corn Festival. So that's where we are. And we are about 45 miles east of Champaign, Urbana, actually east of Urbana. And so that tells you where we are. Now about me, well, I started out with political stuff when I was I'm a retired teacher. I was active in my teachers union and I was grassroots political activist for Illinois Education Association. Why, are you a union person too?
Yes.
Yeah. Union sister. And I was very active on the state level as well as the region level and so forth. Went to a lot of conferences. And as grassroots political activists, I got to know the legislators and I helped organize members to lobby them. And so that's helped me all through this because some of the same legislators I knew then, I still see around, it really is amazing how that adds up. And then I worked, after I retired in 2013, I was a biology teacher at Muhammad Seymour High School, just west of Champaign, for about 30 years. Anyway, when I retired in 2013, I then worked on Carol Ammon's first run for state rep. For about a year, I was her volunteer coordinator. It was just a volunteer position. And then after that, I worked for the first Bernie Sanders campaign, mostly out of the Urbana office, but then I also had an office out. I opened up a headquarters out here in Danville. And then again, in his Bernie Sanders next run, I worked on the Obama campaign before that too. I kind of left that out. Not as seriously as I worked on the Bernie campaign. And so second time, 2020, also worked on the Bernie campaign. I was fellow delegate with Mitchell Essinger. We had fun doing that. He was absolutely amazing delegate. And then let's see, then I became chair. Well, I moved out here to Vermilion County from Champaign County and pretty quickly after that became chair in 2018 and did 2-year term. Ran for county board a couple of times. I am now running for county board my third time, and I lost the first 2, but I keep trying because by God, I'm not going to lay down and just let them have it, if you know what I'm saying. And that's my philosophy in this: is we're not going to just lay down and let them have it. We're going to we need to be out here for Democrats to see us. We need to be visible. We're in the praise. I'm all sweaty and icky and funky looking right now because I was at the county fair and we set up an exhibit this morning and we started it tonight and I'm all dusty and icky, but that's okay. So put up with me. And so anyway,
Jermaine, this is the Illinois rural call.
But we got to be visible. We got to be there. And the Republicans aren't even there this year. I don't know what happened. They're not even out there. And we were interviewed by a radio interviewer. That's cool. They took pictures of our exhibit and it was fun, but we're in the parades. We got to be everywhere. We're in the Friday social first Fridays in Danville and the Summer Sounds. We table. So we just have to try, but it's hard to find candidates. But I guess you want me to talk more about that later.
And that's our topic, and we will get to that, Jermaine. Wonderful. We love your enthusiasm. We love that you've just come from the county fair. That is just so cool. All right, and let's go and let's turn to Rena. Rena, could you introduce yourself and tell us where is Wabash County?
Right.
Okay, Wabash County is, if you go straight down from where Germain is, about 2.5 hours, you'll come to Wabash County. So about 2 miles from my house, maybe 3, is the Wabash River. If you cross over the Wabash River, you're in Indiana. So that's how close I am to Indiana. But of course, I identify with Illinois. I don't know if I could live in Indiana, but that's a side thing. And Germaine forgot one thing in her list of things that she did. But about 4 years ago, Germaine and I and 3 other women ran for state central committee woman. And that's when I got to know Germaine. And what a pleasure it was to get to know her. So we were both vying for the same position, but she is wonderful, and it was a good experience, very good experience. So I am the county chair. My background is education as well. I sort of had a cross, what shall I say? I can't think of what it's called now. This is a senior moment. But anyway, not a real linear career. I'm a musician. I've taught music, but I got into college administration, and I ended my career the last 10 years in as a college administrator. And but I have done several things with leadership positions, and I think certainly I needed all of those to be a county chair. It's a challenging position in these rural areas. Wabash is a small county, and geographically and also in terms of population. So, we have to work hard. And certainly it is a challenge to find candidates. It's a challenge to find people that will be precinct committee people, but we keep working on it. And I will throw this in, and Germaine knows about this, but one of the things we did about 5 years ago, this was before I ran for office, we started an indivisible kind of group that has worked in tandem with our county chairs, a Democratic group, and it's still going. It is still going. It's been very successful. It's helped us all, and I think having this other group, which has a very long name, the League of Like-Minded Resistors. How's that for a name? And so it's kind of under the radar. We've never ever published anything, and by design. So if there's anything that is in the newspaper or on the radio, it's our Democratic county. But this other group is a group of people that were not active as Democrats, but they voted Democrats. Some were independents, just like any other indivisible group. And they have become wonderful volunteers. And so they've augmented our other typical county chair central committee. And so that's worked well for us, and we're going to continue that.
It's very encouraging to hear that, Rena, because that's a little bit about what's happened in Lee County as well, and surrounding counties, that our indivisible group, we like to think of it sometimes as a pipeline to the Democratic Party organization. And I just noticed, and I hope I'm not jumping in too fast, but that Rick has joined us from Bureau County. And if you're ready, Rick, we'd like for you just to jump on and tell us a little 1 or 2 sentences about, or 1 or 2 minutes about yourself. You'll be in, since you've just come on, you're here with several teachers. I think you'll feel, and I see Jim Dixon coming on too. So lots of teachers as county chairs on this call. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us where Bureau County is. So Rick, are you ready?
Sure. Yes, I can. My camera is being difficult, so I will continue after I get done speaking with you to try and get the camera to work. But right now, this is what we got. So Bureau County is right along, well, actually, Interstate 80 bisects the county north and south. And so if you know where Interstate 80 is, that's kind of where we are in the middle of north central Illinois. We're an hour from Rockford, an hour from the Quad Cities, an hour from Peoria, and about an hour and a half from downtown, the Chicago Loop, all depending on traffic. So some days are better than other days in where we are able to get around. We are a very rural county. Our largest community has 7,500 folks in it. And then our second largest community is right around 4,000. When I first moved to Bureau County, we had, trying to remember now, something like 11 high schools. We currently still have 7 high schools in the county. And so we're very large in land size. We are 6 townships, which means that we are 36 miles wide, and we are about 34 miles north to south. So again, a large area, a lot of corn, a lot of soybeans.
Rick, I think we've lost you for a minute.
So we have 17 precincts. Okay. Yes, my internet is unstable. I'm sorry. So we have
It's
17.
quite all right. It's a rural issue.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So we have 17 precincts on the east side that vote regularly Democratic. There are 50 precincts altogether. So that means that there are 43 other precincts that tend to vote Republican. The west side of the county is, we have a large apostolic population, and we tend to be more evangelical, whereas the east side tends to be more Catholic. And voting trends tend to kind of follow the religious background of the folks in the area of the county. So things that I've learned as chair of Bureau County for about the last 10 years.
And that very helpful. And as everyone can hear, I think all the county chairs who are on tonight can relate to your description of the size of your county and the width and the depth of the area that you need to cover. So very, very important. Okay, so let's get on with our questions. And I want to begin with this one. And I'm going to kind of represent Dave McCarver, the Lee County Chair. He sent me a response to a question, so I'm going to start with that one. But in order to give you your bearings about Lee County, we are just north of Rick in Bureau. Rick is Bureau, and just north of Bureau is Lee County. Our largest community is Dixon, Illinois, and we're also very, very rural. And I also, Rick, tend to say that we're an hour south of Rockford and an hour east of the Quad Cities. So we'll have to measure that out sometime. The first question that we wanted to start with is this: what have you been told? And I'm directing this to our county chairs. What have you been told as to why Democrats are not running for office in your area? In other words, if you approach someone and you ask them to run as a Democrat, why are you having difficulty finding Democrats to run? And this is Dave McCarver's response to that, and I will read it for you. He says recruiting candidates in traditionally conservative areas has always been difficult, but it feels more difficult this year. Part of this stems from the hopefully incorrect assumption by most politically active folks that this will be a Republican year in November. I know that that was the main reason given to me by one of the potential state representative candidates that I had a conversation with. So he is saying that somebody said, well, this is a Republican year, why should I run? However, I think the two main reasons it has been difficult are the Democrats' decline in popularity among union members and the lack of recruiting and presence from the Democratic Party of Illinois in these areas for over a decade. Dave says that unions have always been the backbone of the party in rural conservative areas, but Trump's phony populism led to a steep decline in support for Democrats among union members in these areas. Sadly, this was a reason given to me by a local labor leader whom I tried to recruit to run for local office. He told me that if this had been 10 years ago, when he was confident that his members would back him with a D after his name, he would have run. I think the main solution to this problem is to make sure that as a local Democratic Party, we are consistently communicating with our local unions about why we are the party of the working class. Having an active presence at union meetings, sharing office space, and co-hosting events are ways to show unions that we have their back. And I will just mention here, this is Sarah now speaking, that the Lee County Democrats are now sharing, or we're renting an office space from AFSCME. And I think we're going to find this to be a good working relationship. We just can't reach out to union leaders when it is time to fundraise and have that be the extent of our relationship. And he has a little bit more. When it comes to the Democratic Party of Illinois, I am happy to see what appears to be a new interest in rural conservative areas from our new Democratic Party chair. She has the Democratic Party of Illinois headed in the right direction when it comes to rural outreach, after 10 plus years of the Democratic Party of Illinois seemingly ignoring us for state rep and state Senate races. Even if these areas are not likely to be flipped blue, making sure that we have competent candidates with the support of the Democratic Party of Illinois is critical to growing the party throughout the state. The other advantage of the Democratic Party of Illinois actively recruiting and helping in these races is that it can have a bottom-up impact on the ballot. If a good party-backed, well-known Democrat runs for state rep or state Senate and gets the help or funding that they need from the Democratic Party of Illinois, they might not always win, but they will increase Democratic turnout and help boost margins in conservative areas for statewide candidates. There is a whole lot of Illinois outside of the suburbs in Chicago, and I am glad to see the Democratic Party of Illinois beginning to implement a strategy that includes downstate Illinois. Thank you, Dave, for those wonderful thoughts. And he got quite a bit of platform here because he couldn't be with us. So let me return to the question. What have you been told as to why someone might choose not to run at all, or might choose not to run as a Democrat in your area? And let's go back to Mac. He was very brief when we met him, or Mitchell. Mac, how about do you have something to say about that?
Sure. Yeah. Believe me, I've been asking. And I'm kind of new at this. I haven't been involved with this. I just got into this in 2016. I always voted, but never did anything like this. But yeah, I'm asking around people, and I mean, I think the number one thing is people say, well, I just can't win. You know, there's only you know, 30% tops that I'm going to get. And they feel like a sacrificial lamb,
Mhm.
which is the main thing. And then other people do say that they're laying low as a Democrat. They just want to hide.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Mitchell, what do you hear when you ask people to run as a Democrat or when you ask people to run?
Well, I will expand upon what Max said. He is very right. When you ask people to run as a Democrat down here, they're like, whoa, why you want to put me out in my community like that? It's one of those type of things where they are scared. What I would say as to why, I mean, I could pretty much officially say it. My grandfather actually helped get Nixon elected in Illinois, which don't skewer me. I'm on the right side now, right? Making up for history. That's all I can do. But like very much so what it is that during the 60s, law and order, then you had the abortion issue, which got all of the religious denominations around here that were Christian. And then on top of that, you had guns where the Republicans are able to use the city's violence, even though it's like 1 million people packed into the space of less than my county in Shelbyville or Shelby County, and then use that as a reason to say like, oh, this is why we can't have guns, because bad guys are going to come after you, the good guys who have these guns. And then by solidifying those issues, anytime we even say we're a D, I mean, you can have people that are running D that are pro-abort or that are anti-abortion and pro-guns, still won't win, because just the D behind their name, because what has been solidified over decades to be synonymous with the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Okay, so pretty tough because of the issues, just having that D behind your name. Jermaine, Arena, do you want to chime in about that question?
Go first. I do.
Okay, go Jermaine.
Okay, well, I mean, I think the others kind of covered it a little bit, but I'll add my own little spice to it. Yeah, 3 things have, I think, been bothering them. And one is definitely the lack of hope. They just don't feel they can win. And that's a huge commitment to make. I don't care if you're just running for county board or even precinct committee, well, not precinct committee person, but even if you're just running for county board. I mean, it is, you know, I've got a pretty thick skin, I guess. And I've lost 2 times and I'm running a 3rd time. But, you know, some people really get hurt the first time they lose. It's really hard on them. And it's a huge commitment, maybe money wise, maybe certainly time wise, you know, and heart wise. You put your heart into something and you don't think you can win. I mean, why would you run? And then the other thing is finances. I think people are worried that we don't have a lot of money, because I mean, that kind of goes along with, you know, the decline of the Democrats in this area. We also have trouble doing fundraisers and, you know, getting money from people, donations. We're struggling. We can't help our candidates very much. And they think, well, you know, you want me to put everything out there, even money, and you're not helping me much. And then the third thing I would say is, and I'm going to go back to Champaign County because I lived in Champaign County for a while. I'm going to include that in what I've seen with candidates. I've seen some really good progressive candidates not be treated well by the Illinois Democratic Party. And one of them was David Gill, Dr. Gill, who never really was supported very well, even by the county party. Sorry, Champaign County, but Champaign County didn't support him very well. Not really in very many of his races and attempts. And the Illinois Democratic Party, I think Democrats were afraid of him because he was so progressive. Cindy Cunningham, she's you know, had 2 races ahead of this time, so she's on her 3rd attempt. And now finally the state party is supporting her, but only because I think she's winnable now. So I think that's something right there, is if they don't think you're going to be, that you can win the race, they're not going to support you. I don't know. It's just something like, it's like a snowball effect. Why would you even try? You know? So if you can take it from state rep and even statewide and all the way down to county board, it's the same story. You know, people don't feel supported enough. And the other thing too is I think people are really, really, really scared. Somebody said that. I think it was Mac and Mitchell both. People are really scared. They're really like, they're hiding out. They're in the closet. Democrats are in the closet in this county. And they did come out when we sold the Biden signs. They came out of the closet and they came and they bought. That surprised me. I didn't think they put that many out. We must have sold 500. I thought that was pretty good for this red county. But, people are afraid. Here's an illustration. I have someone who was an appointed precinct committee person. She's a school administrator like Rena. She's retired. Riva, I'm sorry. And
Rena.
she's retired, but she's an environmental activist. She's very organized. She's a very good activist, but she didn't want to run for precinct committee person. She said, Jermaine, I just don't like that. I don't like going around getting signatures. I don't like having my name on the ballot as a Democrat in my area. They don't want to be seen as a Democrat. She says, you can appoint me again as a precinct committee person, but I don't want to run it and be on the ballot.
Wow.
Now, what does that tell you, right?
Intimidation. The intimidation
And
is
she's
working.
she's usually not one to be intimidated. If she really wants to do something, she'll do it. But if it's enough to discourage some really good talent and skill like that, she
Well,
would be good.
They're succeeding then. Rena, are you finding some of the same thing when you're asking people to run for office? What are you hearing?
Very similar, very, very similar things. So I have several things to say, but the one I think is most, I'm going to think about time here, that I really want to share is that I am reading a book, I'm almost finished, called The Dirt Road Revival. Have any of you heard of it? Write it down, write it down. And
Teacher that you are, Rena.
I can't help it, Okay, so I read about this book in the New Yorker, believe it or not, and it caught my attention, and so I ordered it before it was even out, and it's fascinating. So the point of the book is a young woman in Maine, which is the most rural state in the U.S., and she was from the most rural county in Maine, ran for office for state rep when she was 26 years old. She had a fantastic campaign advisor and helper, and they won. 2 years later, she ran for state senate, and they won again. The book is about how a Democrat ran in a red county, in a red state, and won not once, but twice. She was 26 and 28 years old. And you know what? This is how she won. She went counter to what the Democratic Party has typically said that we need to do to get votes and to win. And here's what she did. She went and knocked on Republican doors, independent doors, people who don't vote doors. Do the math. Here is the math. If you do the math in a red county, no one can win, I'm sorry, without some Republican votes. Now, it's not easy. Here we got people who don't want to run for office because they don't want their name on there. So can you imagine being a candidate and going to a Republican house and saying, hi, I'm Rena Bever and I'm running for county board? It's not easy. But if we want to win, we've got to change how we go about campaigning. And the other thing that she did that was just, I think, her real asset, instead of saying, I'm Rena Bever and these are the things that I stand for, she said, I'm Rena Bever and I want to hear from you. Talk to me. What are your concerns? What are your needs? And if I were elected as on your county board, what would you like to see me do? What needs to happen in your opinion? So she gathered information. Now, okay, this design may not work everywhere as easily because Maine's a small state. It's not very populated, but I think the principle is the same. You need more workers, but she went back to these houses again and again. She campaigned like a crazy person. And we all know that's still the number one way to get votes. We have many ways. I mean, and you have to have a full court press, I think, if you want to win anywhere. But the best way is eyeball to eyeball. It's individual to individual. And as scary as it is to try and ask a Republican for their vote, I think we have to. Or we really have to get the group that is registered, but they don't vote. We have to get that vote. We have to, because if we just get Democrats, the math just doesn't work. There aren't enough. So that's my, and I'm, I just like all of you, I've been at this a long time. There's another book, I have to throw this in, and the people in my county, they get sick of me throwing out books, but I've read a ton of books. You probably all have too. But this relates to kind of what's happened with industry and the union people in rural America. And the book is by Wendell Berry, The Unsettling of America. Now, this is not a new book. He wrote this book almost like a prophet. He wrote this book in the 70s. He took 4 years to write it. It is an incredible book. I cannot even tell you how many Wendell Berry books. I feel like it is his absolute best book. But he outlines how we got to be a red country. He wasn't talking about it then. This was in the 70s. But he saw it happening. He saw that we were unsettling. And these rural areas had been settling for 200 years. But in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, all the way to now, they started unsettling. And he talks about how that has changed each county, and he goes further, families. And it has changed how union people react to their environment. And so it did not happen overnight. It was a long process. But I think the union people that are now voting Republican, who always voted Democrat, they feel like they've lost their sense of identity with the people around them. And that's what we have to find a way to address if we are going to get candidates in these rural counties. Anyway.
So yes, and your point is so well taken that if you have to get people voting before you can get people to run, right? I think I'm hearing that in your plea that if we can get numbers, if we can get more people get more people voting Democrat, then those who are considering running will see those numbers. So let's return to Rick. Rick, let's go back. I'll reread the question because it's we've been talking for a while, but what have you been told when you ask people to run as a Democrat? What do they say to you?
Well, there's a couple things, and I think people have brought them, so I'll just say yes. So money is a big one. People don't want to have to spend their own money, and so they want to know that there's financial backing, or they're worried about being able to afford it. The Republicans can be just mean, horrible, hateful people. And so sometimes they're just afraid of what those repercussions are going to be because some of their neighbors are just mean, horrible, hateful people. And it's not saying all Republicans are, but are those people that are there. And I saw in a comment that they were talking about that being a form of voter suppression. And it's also a form of trying to just keep people from running. Time commitment is another thing. So kind of piggyback on what Rena was saying, one of the things that we do here is we do knock on every door. Even if there is a Republican sign on it, we will knock on the door. And because people for who they know. And I can't tell you the number of times we've had people say, you're the first person that's knocked on my door. And we've had Republicans say that they're going to vote for our candidate because they knocked on their door. As Rena was also talking about, it's important to knock on doors more than once. So we try to get to as many doors as we can, at least 2 times, in order to be able to help people feel like they are cared about. So there is a huge time commitment, and people won't necessarily want to put in that amount of time in order to be able to do it. And not just knocking on doors, but also the time commitment that also goes along with being on a board. People are afraid of how much time it's going to take. And even just telling them like 2 meetings a month, some people are like, I don't have the time to do that. And people are very, especially people with young and teenage children, they have very tight schedules in trying to make it to everything that their kids are doing.
So yeah, a clear thing that everybody is facing. How much time do you have? And we're asking you to serve on a county board, or we're asking you to serve in any number of ways. And people have time commitments. And of course, yesterday, as we were listening to the hearings, the January 6th hearings, I think we all got a real sense of how intimidating the Republican Party can be to those that they don't agree with. So yeah. All right, well, let's go on to another question. And I thank you all for your thoughtful answers to that question. But let's talk about something that does work. So do you have one particular tool that you can use to encourage people to run for office? Is there one trick or one tool or one statement or one thing that you do to help to encourage people to run? If you see somebody and you think that person would be really great for X office, is there something that you do or say to that person to get them to run? Any one of you want to chime in?
Well, I do not have I wish I did have
a magic word.
I do not have a magic word, but I will confess, you wear them down.
That's a technique.
Please.
Yeah.
And I think the most successful candidate that we had, that's what we did. And he was an excellent candidate. But he ran in 2020, and COVID was an issue. We couldn't campaign the way that we would have, and I really do believe it would have been close, but he would have won had we been able. But the problem is, like this been mentioned here before, he doesn't want to run again, and I really, tried to. So I'm still working, but I don't. I in this small county, I don't have any magic. I wish I did. So
I think that's your magic. Wear them down. Wear them down. Yes. Anyone else have a thought of something that helps when you have your eye on someone and you really want them to run?
Yeah, I got something to say on that. What I found to work pretty well is if I tell them I will help them, or that the party will help them, and that I will help guide them as to what they should do when, and help give them advice on whether they should buy signs, where they should buy them, but also even to help get their signatures when they're filing for their candidacy in the spring primary. I went around and helped a number of candidates this spring get their signatures. And I think it made a huge difference. Or I got other people in their district to help them. Because I had one woman who had COVID and she had to be out of town and she couldn't get her signatures. And she was actually an incumbent county board member. We do have a few in our Democrats. And so I hooked her up with, I don't know why she didn't think of it herself, but I just hooked her up with the other two county board incumbent members that we have in that district. Happens to be a couple of Democrat controlled districts here still. And they went and got all the signatures. They were getting them for themselves anyway. So they just got hers at the same time. And, you know, I saw that there were two others. We had a new candidate that had never run. I was helping him, but also the other two Democratic candidates in that county board district. We all just went out together and did things together. I think that togetherness and that feeling like you're part of a team that's going to help you. And even if you fail, at least you're going to learn something from them and it's going to be a growing experience. And then the other thing is the philosophy we talked about earlier is just that we're not going to just lay down and let them have it. I think that's, some people agree. They've all looked at the ballot and been embarrassed at all the blanks on the Democratic ballot. Many elections. And they don't like seeing that. I think that's inspired some of them to just, by golly, let's just run. And then the other thing is that I run. So even though I know I'm going to lose in County Board District 4, I just keep running because you know what? How can I ask them to run if I don't?
Well,
I have something,
yes, go.
I have something more to add on to what Jermaine said. I am also running for county board because of the same mentality. How can I ask other people to run if I'm not running myself? But also I would say there's certain key languages and certain key moments you should hit. One, you should always ask for the hard yes. By means of that, don't give them really an out when you're asking for it. Be like more, for example, when I was looking for election judges, I got over 100 for the first time in a decade. And I didn't ask them like, oh, you know, do you think maybe you could maybe be our election judge? I was like, can we count on you for another term as an election judge? Yes or no? But it led them more likely to say yes. And I also asked them right after, each day after the 1-6 hearings, because I know more than likely those people had watched those hearings. And I got to tell you, I've been doing this for 2 years now and never, I mean, granted, this is the time that election judges come up, so I didn't have to do this a year ago, but like never have I heard before someone say, this is my duty as an American citizen to do this job. I mean, I had been told, I don't know, maybe, but when I called after those hearings, people seeing that law and order was pretty much being reestablished, they were like, you know what? I do want to be an election judge. I do want to go into this. I want to make sure people aren't stealing this from us. And I got over 100 election judges in a time that we normally get around 60, and I still have people calling me to be alternates right now. And I think it's a type of messaging, which if there's any other questions I can expand upon further, I feel it's everybody would like to know about this, but type of messaging, timing, and honestly, that's really it. It's just the messaging and timing that really gets people. Like you can't just do it anytime. You got to use the right time. But
Well,
I'll concede my time.
we've got some wonderful suggestions here. So timing, I'll work with you, wearing them down. What about Mac or Rick? Do you have something that helps get somebody to run?
I wish I had something because I've got a couple of people that I've got my eye on. And I mean, I keep asking, I keep letting them know. And I mean, I'm in this for the long haul. So, I mean, this lady who just told me no over the weekend, I mean, I want her to run. I mean, if she runs in 2 years, great. I want her to do it. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, you know, I just keep asking. So maybe I'm trying to wear them down. I don't know, but I haven't found my magic anything yet. I'm
Well,
looking.
maybe Mitchell can help you frame your question. He
Yeah.
sounds
No,
like
no, no, he's getting there.
got-
He's getting there. I talk with Mac regularly. He's just right almost there.
What about you, Rick?
So we're starting to take a different tack here in Bureau County. That went out by IDCCA asking people to get involved, and we got a fairly long list of people that wanted to be volunteers. And so instead of asking people to become precinct committee people or to run for office, right now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to get people involved as volunteers in different kinds of committees and just doing some kind of work with the party, and try to get them involved with the party first, so that they start to see that it isn't as overwhelming as what it may feel like initially when asked to do something. And so that if we can get drawn in, impact they can have, that maybe we can get them in the future to be able to be.
Great. So get them in as volunteers first, get to know them, get to know which ones are going to be really good, positive candidates, and then go from there. Yeah. Wow. You guys started out by saying, I don't think we have any magic here, but I heard a lot of magic in those answers. Anything else that we missed on how to convince somebody to run?
Well, I do have something. It might not be exactly on how to convince somebody to run, but I mean, it's correlated to both convincing someone to run and just convincing anybody outside of a Republican voter or a QAnon voter. And this is what I had mentioned to earlier in my statement. But especially in a rural area, we've seen about 22 decades of Fox News. I mean, I grew up as, I'm probably maybe the youngest person on this call, but like I remember growing up watching my aunts and uncle watching Fox News and then going over to my house and seeing MSNBC and seeing the difference at like a 5-year-old's age. But even at a 5-year-old, I could be like, these guys are crazy. What are they talking about? But what it really is they've been conditioned to think a certain type of way, to act a certain type of way, to talk and listen to a certain type of way. And when you are able to understand that, and I will say it maybe takes a couple of days of watching Tucker Carlson, which none of us on this call want to do, don't get me wrong, but like it's helpful that I have seen and getting past certain barriers in people's heads that automatically kind of come up when you say certain keywords, and when you can avoid those keywords, and when you can kind of use a certain language to push a democratic message. It doesn't really matter how north or south you are. You can get the democratic message spread if you know what language they are willing to hear, per se. And by recognizing that, I mean, I am a pro-choicer. I don't feel any weird saying that on this call, but I did get about $2,000 from a pro-lifer in 15 minutes just from what I'm talking about. And just by saying my opinions, and never did I ever give up anything that I believe in, but I said it in a way that I knew he could comprehend, that wouldn't like put up any walls in his head. Dude gave me $2,000 15 minutes later. So like, I know we're all saying, all these chairs are saying all of these terrible things right now, and they're not wrong. Mind you, they are not wrong. This is really bad down here, but it is not a lost hope. There is a chance, and there is ways for us to do this. As one shoe falls, so will another. We will be that next shoe. All of us here, it's just how do we do it?
Wow, Mitchell, nice and encouraging. Thank you so much. I live in Lee County, and so when I went to vote, I was pretty discouraged. I knew what the ballot was going to look like. We do not, in the 16th congressional district, have a Democratic candidate at all. We do not have anyone running for state Senate. We do not have anyone running for state House. We do not have anyone running for county clerk. We do not have anyone running for sheriff. And this is, I am not saying this as a criticism of our county chair or any county chairs in the region at all. I am just saying that that's the way it is. And when you go to vote and you take a Democratic ballot, it's discouraging. And I found it discouraging. And it's also hard to convince people in my precinct. I'm a precinct committee person. It's hard to convince people to vote because they're voting for so few things. They're voting for Secretary of State, and they're voting for Rick Wilken. And so it's really hard to get people to vote. So I'm wondering how you feel. I'd like to hear from the county chairs about whether you feel it's critical to fill up that ballot. How important is it for us to have candidates in as many positions as possible? Or should we be thinking more along the lines of focusing on certain offices? So I'm just going to throw that out. How important is it to have to fill up that ballot? And any one of you jump on in.
I spoke, so I'll speak first and then let everybody else talk. I think it's a dichotomy. It's both very important and not important at the same time. You need as many people as you can on there, so as many people can be represented by the party, so they feel like they have a voice. You don't want any precinct going unattended. You don't want any county board member going unopposed. You want to have your voice there as much as possible. I would say the dichotomy starts with what the Republicans are doing, which is they have very much recognized the offices that are needed to be controlled in order to control the whole county, because they don't decide what they do by making great choices. They decide what they do by opposition and by just stopping us from being able to do what the most of us want us to do, what the democracy wants us to do. And in my county specifically, Brad Halbrook has realized that he can control the entire county through about a couple county board members and the treasurer's office. In fact, the treasurer just got a felony for refusing to pay anybody in the courthouse, but that was all done from the Republican side. So there is a real argument to be made from, do we do everybody to make everybody feel represented and spread ourselves as much as we should and get people worked up through the line, maybe from precinct committeeman to county board member to holding an office in the court. To, if the treasurer can stop everything, well, then we got to focus on the treasurer's office, because she can screw up the next 4 years. And it's a real problem of really realizing, where can you allocate your resources and your money and your time to the things that best help your county versus what best represents your county. And I would say the problem with that is lack of resources, lack of volunteers, lack of momentum on the volunteer side. I mean, I hear so often, again, youngest person here, but so often from my generation, that our vote doesn't matter, getting involved doesn't matter, we don't make a difference, yada, yada, yada. When that is the furthest thing from the truth, where if they got involved, they would make the most direct difference that they had ever made. But instead, everybody's arguing on Facebook because it's easier. You feel like when you type something out that, my brain, I'm done, I don't have to do any more. But we really need those people to do more. And I guess I don't really have a good answer for you. It's a problem of, what is the issue in your county? What do you need most? Do you have a well-organized Republican county that's going to try to screw everything up? Or do you have one that you can expand upon yourself and grow the party? It's very much, environmentally speaking.
Specific to each county. And you talked about treasurer, but I think we also need to think about clerk. Because particularly, I mean, in our county, in Lee County, we do not have the permanent vote by mail opportunity yet before the primary. It will be mandatory before the general, but in Lee County, you cannot yet sign up for permanent vote by mail because we have a Republican county clerk.
And that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Hey, can I
Yes.
break in, Sarah? There's been a whole lot of questions and comments and everything in the chat, and we only have like 18 minutes left. Could we have, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call on people to, some people have several questions and several comments. I'll just call on people, and when I call on you, you have 30 seconds to speak, because there's a whole lot of people that want to. Okay, Jeff.
And we want to say, are you directing it at a particular county chair too, or could anyone answer, right?
Well, you know what? I think most of these questions look like they're pretty general, and also some of them are comments even. And Jeffrey has been really wanting to say something. So Jeffrey, you have 30 seconds. Everybody who I call on has 30 seconds. Get Jeffrey, go. Whatever questions or comments you want to say, go for it.
Okay, first off, can you hear me? Any of you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
All right. Did any of you lose your elections by things like voter fraud, voter tampering, voter suppression, gerrymandering, any of that? Any of you guys?
Anyone have that experience?
Not to a great level. So some of it can be very subtle, but for the most part, and not enough that's going to throw the election one way or another. I have to say our elections are free and fair, and especially in Bureau County, I think it's pretty typical. We have good election judges who make sure that people have the ability to vote and the votes are fairly counted. And the nice thing about Illinois is we trail. And I do go in after the 2 weeks, and when they do the recounts, and they're always almost spot on.
Because I did have a solution to help prevent that kind of stuff. It's called Stop Democracide, otherwise known as Crimes Against Democracy.
Yeah. Like, thank you, Jeffrey. I think it sounds like maybe you think it's an issue, but our county chairs are saying not so much of an issue. Marcy, who's our next?
Can I say something there? I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I think we have some voter suppression going on in this county, in Vermilion County, with our Republican county clerk. So to me, that seemed like the position that we really should aim at if we're going to aim at one, but we haven't been able to beat the Republican. We had a really good candidate in 2018 too, and she lost. But because they do things like, well, Champaign County, for example, has 13 ballot boxes throughout the county. Some of them they're still installing. Our neighboring county, we don't even have one ballot box. So somebody has to go either mail their ballot and hope the U.S. mail is going to do the job, or they got to bring it in themselves, expose themselves to COVID or whatever. So we're having a war now just to get one ballot box outside the county administration building, which is where the county clerk is.
We have the same thing, not one.
They're not open. They don't want to do anything but the bare minimum. They don't want to help voters. So in a way, I call that voter suppression.
Good point, Jermaine. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Marcy.
Yeah. And anyway, so.
Okay, Marcy, to the next person.
Yeah, Jeffrey, we really do need to go on. I'm sorry. Anyway, but yeah, so, and by the way, we have 12 ballot boxes, Jermaine, because the mayor of Tolono, the Republican mayor of Tolono refused to have one there. So we only have 12. Anyway, Terry, you had several questions and comments and all that stuff, 30 seconds.
Well, the most important question is for Mitchell Esslinger. When you ran against Brad Hellbrook, you obviously were a sacrificial lamb. And I think it was the first time you ran for something. What gave you the courage to do that, knowing there was no chance in hell you were going to beat Brad Halbrook in that district?
Well, I'll tell you, and I'll try to keep it short just so everybody has more questions. And don't get all depressed after I say this, because I know all of you are going to look at me like, oh, but like, don't, okay? Don't. So what really happened was my dad back in 2014 committed suicide. He was a veteran from Vietnam, and he had not been given his medical disability rights as he should have been. He had a heart attack. He was airlifted to Sarah Bush down here. They could not intubate him. He was then airlifted to Carl, where he spent 2 weeks. After that, I mean, it was like 100+ K, and then plus depression of open heart surgery, he committed suicide. I was still in college at that time. And I had also worked on the Obama campaign, and I had already been political. Mind you, I got a detention in 3rd grade for writing a political cartoon arguing why Bush was taking so many breaks after 9/11. I was in a religious school, so it happened. But like, you know, anyway, the real thing was that when COVID started, I had 2 years medical studies to be an epidemiologist in college before I decided to be an architect. And I knew that Brad Halbrook saying down here that my chiropractor saying I don't have to wear a mask is wrong. And I thought to myself, as many of you probably thought to yourself about 2 years ago, this dude's going to kill me. And I was one of, I guess, the few that thought if this dude's going to kill me, I'm not going to let him fill the space. I'm going to be the one that says he's wrong, and I'm going to say it all the way to the bank until, you know, I possibly die, because at this point we thought we were all screwed. And it was very much so like, I cannot allow for these idiots to fill the space that we all know is wrong. And if we all know it's wrong, we have the opportunity to say it's wrong. And we can say that. And though all of us feel on this call like we don't have a voice, we type on Facebook, whatever social media you have, and you don't feel like you make a big difference, I guarantee you, if you run for any office and you make your voice heard, it will be heard, more so than you even can imagine. I mean, I have a women's group in Tuscola by me, north of me. It's the first women's group this south of Illinois to be created in the last 2 years. Started off my campaign. And those people started because they heard me say enough is enough and screw this. And so they also said, screw this. And I think that all of you on here right now are saying, screw this. And so that's what gave it to me. It was just, I had the momentum and the backing of people like you and the help of people like you to be like, enough is enough. And I want to make a difference. And then all of you guys back. And I, again, cannot say how happy I am for you, Diane, for you, Marcy, for you, Jermaine. Rick, I know I met you. You helped me out too. And I appreciate that. And Mac, I'm not forgetting you either. Like, you guys have all helped me out. And that is really what it is, guys. We just have to realize we're all in this together. And that if we just step up, as initially scary as it seems, it really isn't. And like, you will, if you're already on this and you already have the handle of this, then you're ready to run for office. I know that seems a little scary and upfront, but it's very much true. And I would hope all of you, you know, one day find the courage to find what I had, because you all have it in you. And that is the answer if you want it.
Very encouraging. Marcy, who's
Okay,
next?
okay, Mark Lundholm, you had several comments, questions, whatever, 30 seconds with something. Is he still on, Mark Lundholm? Oh, okay, well, okay, we'll go on to the next one then. By the way, Al Whitman had something that he is an organizer. So if you could just blurt out real quick, you know what you put in the chat.
Oh yeah, I'm Al Whitman. I'm in Kankakee County. I've met some of you. I worked for John Willard for years. Jordan Humphrey, Champaign County just moved onto my
Yes.
block. Anyway,
We know
I am
Jody.
I am the contact person in Kankakee County for Robin Kelly. Her district now goes all the way down to Danville, the second district.
And Rantoul.
And Rantoul, you're right. The lines are crazy. Anyway, I'm in Kankakee County, but I'm in regular contact with John Moore, her political director. And so anybody that would like, she really desperately wants to reach out to the rural counties. And so anybody can feel free to me. I'm all over, my name and phone numbers all over Facebook. Al Whitman, it's WHITMON. My grandfather got drunk. Anyway, this is who I am, and I'm running for precinct committee again in Kankakee County. And I've been asked by 2 of our candidates to be run for vice chair. So that's briefly who I am.
Right.
I talk a year.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, Kathleen Campbell had a couple comments. Kathleen, are you still on? Okay.
I
Okay.
am, but I
Oh.
didn't have any comments. I was
Okay.
just taking it all in.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. I just found out Cindy Bender was nearby, so I was just commenting to her.
Oh,
We're
okay.
gonna talk after the call.
Oh, okay, cause yeah, you had something about the pipeline and all, so I didn't know, okay. Okay, how about, David Simpson? David Simpson had a question. David?
Let's see.
Okay. Okay,
Dave,
Jody, is David?
I'm not sure. He was
Okay.
our candidate for state
Okay.
senate. in
Okay,
28.
okay. Jody Slaughter had a comment. Jody? Okay, I don't know if Jody's still on. Okay. And then Leslie Roberts had a couple comments. Leslie, do you want to?
I wrote so much, I don't remember what I wrote.
Okay.
But I do.
You
If
don't
we
have to
don't,
say anything.
if we don't have judges, then we don't have democracy. It's that simple. There's no process. There's nobody to secure it and make sure people get to vote.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's really a lot of fun.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about serving as an
Election judges. Yeah, yeah, because someone
Yeah.
had put.
Could I interrupt? Could I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
What is fun about being an election judge? What do you find so fun?
Leslie, tell us.
You get to greet people and talk to them and help them to vote, answer their questions. And the paperwork isn't so hard. It's rather easy. You go through training, you meet new people that are fellow judges at the table, and you spend the day with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
sales pitch. Thank you, Leslie. A great way to see your neighbors. And not quite as much as before we had vote by mail. I'm thrilled about vote by mail, but when everybody voted in the polling place, you really did see all of your neighbors then. That was a big deal. Marcy, do we have anyone else?
I mean, there are others put, little comments here and there, but those were mainly the people who did major comments and questions. If anyone, I'll tell you what, if anyone wants to do that has not yet talked, that wants to do the hand raise thing to make a comment or a question, we have 5 minutes left. And so I know Diane said something, there was somebody who made a comment about talking about the Holocaust, and Diane made a comment about that. Did you want to talk anything about that? That would be a good way to get the message across to people. So did you want to say anything about that, Diane?
Well, I don't really know what to say. I am one of the core leaders of a group called Bendy Arc Jewish Action, and Marcy is one of the core leaders, and Terry has been a core leader. And we have done Holocaust education, and we hoped it would make a difference. back in 2016, we thought, yeah, we got this, man. We're just going to go out and teach everyone about what Judaism is, and it'll all be cool. And then they're going to love us, and all will be well with the world because they just don't know. And anti-Semitism has exploded, not only in the United States, but in Europe, everywhere. And it just keeps getting worse. So, only 27 states of the 50 United States even allow Holocaust education in schools. I found that a very depressing fact. Also, just out of curiosity, it would be so interesting. I mean, no one knows anything about Judaism. And I know that there are a lot of churches who are saying, really, spreading a lot of disinformation. And, and not only churches, but, everybody who is a non-Jew, I think could benefit from learning more about what it is to be a Jew. Anyway, in your head, I'm gonna ask a question, and you just in your head give a number.
And remember, you only have just a couple more, more seconds.
Real quick, what percentage of people in the United States do you think are Jewish? Just put a number in your head, and I'm going to give you the response: 1.5%. And just for yourself, think about if you were close or if you were far. And that's all I have to say about anti-Semitism. If you want to talk to me more, you can find me at what can you find me at? bendiark@gmail. No, Hineni CU.
You know what? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
Thanks, Marcy.
Because we're now
You're out of time.
We're now at 2 minutes. And
Yes.
I would like for us to wind up. We've talked about some real struggles that we have. We've talked about some techniques. We've talked about some of the things that I hope some of our Metro listeners were not aware of.
What about
But
this idea?
I would like to end this with hope. And I'm wondering if maybe just each of our county chairs can tell us just very briefly what makes you hopeful in 2022. So let's just go through. Rena, you haven't spoken in a while. Something very brief, something that makes you hopeful.
I am hopeful, actually. And I think I go back to Mitchell. I think young people they're our future. And we need more young people. So that's my hope.
Okay, so young people. Jermaine, what makes you hopeful?
Well, actually the January 6th investigation and hearings have made me hopeful. And I think like Mitchell got a bunch of new judges because of all this publicity.
Great.
I think it is making the Democrats feel like, hey, Democrats did a really good job doing this. And, finally the right people are getting the bad publicity they deserve. And maybe justice will happen here. So maybe there's a reason. So I'm hopeful because of that. I'm also hopeful because we do keep getting new candidates once in a while and new volunteers will just walk in sometimes if we have our headquarters open, which we don't very often actually, except in election season. But people do walk in, they are interested, they are concerned. And even with this difficult situation in a red county, it still does something to my heart when I get together with my Democrat friends, even out at the fair. We were having a good time. There were 4 of us.
Oh, that's right. We started at the
there's
fair.
some camaraderie in it, and that gives me hope that even in bad times, we still will be there.
The J6 investigation, young people, new people. Mac, what gives you hope?
We've been having a lot of activities. We had an abortion rally. We had an anti-gun violence rally. We had a Juneteenth celebration, and we've got lots of people showing up for these things.
Great events. Wonderful. Let's see, Rick, what gives you hope?
Just working with people. I believe people are basically good and want to do well and so they just seeing the goodness.
Rick and I got to work together last Saturday on the Dixon Pride Day, and I came away from that day with an incredible sense of hope. It was very, very uplifting. And Mitchell, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is two things. One, I have been doing a strategy that is making the Republicans eat their own tail, and it has been working not only on a local level, but as we can all see, it's starting to work on a national level, and that gives me hope. The fact that law and order is being brought back into the world gives me hope, and the fact that Republicans now have Brad Halbrook suck signs on their grain bins and LED lights, that gives me hope, and I'll leave it at that.
Great, great. And here we are at 9:02, just a little bit over. I'm going to say, because I get the last word here, I'm going to say that I think the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois is going in a much, much better direction than it has for a very long time. And the people who've been on this call tonight, these wonderful county chairs, each and every one of you, give me tremendous hope. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for all your contributions, for opening yourselves up to us, for giving us your time. It's a very busy time, but we thank you very, very much, and we will sign off. So good night. Thank you.
Guys.
You're great. It's wonderful. Great discussion.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
You guys all rock.
Yes. Yeah, so there we go. Down to Terry, and Jermaine was so much fun. Rena is so great. So I've written down both your books, Rena. I'll add them to my big stack. Things to read. Let's see.
Yeah, distract.
Yeah.
I was gonna propose this idea, but I know it might sound you might criticize me for it, but why not they keep their ideals but run in the Republican Party?
That frankly did not, I didn't hear that overtly said tonight, but I suspect that we have some people here locally who, in fact, I more than suspect it, that they are Democrats running as Republicans.
Yeah,
So
and
that happens. That
in 2018 in the Sixth Circuit, which for judges, Champaign is in the Sixth Circuit for circuit court. There was a person that he was quote an independent, but I mean he was a